Hey gang, this is Vinny Biscotto with the Biscotto Team, and I'm here to talk to you about the right time to refinance. I get asked all the time, how are rates looking? When are rates going to come down? And that makes sense because the lower the rate, the lower the mortgage payment. But there's a couple other things I want you to take into consideration when it comes to refinancing. And right, because there's a lot of you homeowners out there right now that have, 3.5%, 4.5% interest rates that you bought a few years ago, and now you have equity. And it's, why would you want to step away from that low interest rate and refinance into today's rate environment, right? So there's just a few things I want you to consider. First, if you have equity, understanding that equity is a victim of inflation and deflation, right? So if the value of your home should shift, so does that equity. The term use it or lose it, right? So if you have equity in the home, it's definitely something to consider when you're carrying credit card debt, or maybe you have investment opportunities, right? So why should I refinance into a higher rate when I have a low mortgage rate on my first, right? So the answer to that is that, if you're carrying credit card debt, if you have, interest rates between 20 and 24%, and you're making minimum payments on those, it's like a life sentence. It just follows you. So for every $1,000 that you have financed and you make the minimum payment, it takes about 3 years to pay off. Right. So if you have, between $30,000 and $40,000 in credit card debt, and that's just 4 cards, right? And 3 cards in some instances, that definitely is something to consider, that you would consolidate that debt and you could save yourself anywhere between $400 and $600 a month. So, that's one thing to consider. The other side of that is that maybe that equity that's sitting there can be used as a down payment on an investment property. And now you're going to have earnings from 2 properties as the market value and the value of the homes increase, right? So you're gaining equity now in 2 properties instead of just leaving your equity sitting in your home, right? So the gain on a property that's valued at $300,000 and $400,000, if it goes up in value, say 3 to 5%, that's much more than you're saving on the difference between your mortgage payment currently, right? So is it worth it to refinance? Absolutely. So if you have equity, it's definitely something to consider, that equity can be used for you in a positive way to earn and to grow your investment property portfolio, or to consolidate debt and lower your monthly financial responsibilities. And then the last piece of it is that if you're going to consider consolidating your credit card debt, that while you're lowering that payment, you can lower the term, maybe go from a 30-year to a 15-year. And then that gives you a little bit more flexibility and saves you all those years of payments on your mortgage. So if you're getting close to the retirement age, or you're thinking about retiring, this is definitely something to consider. So when is the right time to refinance? It's specific to your situation. It's really not driven by a number, a rate, an interest rate. It's really driven by your financial needs and what your personal situation is. So if you'd like to talk about this, and you'd like to hear just a little bit more information about using that equity, about still saving yourself significant money monthly without having to be concerned about where that rate environment is, you can talk to me, Vinny, at 817-714-5090, or you can reach us at thebiscottoteam.com. And remember, for all your mortgage needs, talk to Vinny. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.